So next, we are going to jump to our another franchise, which is Multan Sultans. So I'll just throw it to you, Dan, for giving us a bit of a overview of the foreign players, especially the most surprising pick you would say for me was Josh Little. I was very happy with the pick, but that was the moment at the draft and I got, wow, they did that. So Joshua Little, you've got Akil Hussain coming in, obviously Tim David, David Miller, huge names, Kieran Pollard. How do you see the foreign reserve of Multan Sultans?
Well, I think that it's obviously a strong group of overseas players. I think they've got to bring in a couple of replacement players, if I'm right in saying that. So the question is, how do you structure those players as a combination? So if you mentioned Josh Little, he's someone who's hugely improved over the last 12 to 18 months. When he was started to get a lot of hype a couple of years back. And I wasn't quite sure initially, but he certainly proved me wrong. And I think this is a really great example. This recruitment of Josh Little is a really great example of how PSL teams have started to become a little bit smarter in their recruitment. I'm a fan of Josh Little right now. Left armour, and he looks like he likes the battle. It looks to me, it looks like he doesn't have fear, and I think that he should get in this team, certainly on ability, but the question is the combos, where you fit them in, because you have Tim David or Kieran Pollard, you're going to have Miller, you're going to have Rasool, you might need Akil Hussain as well. I think so you can only pick 4 of them, and I think that's the biggest problem.
So there was a moment during the draft where Multan Sultans went ahead and picked up Naseem Shah as their fast bowler, and then obviously there was a rebuttal from Quetta. They used their right to match and they pulled Naseem back to their squad. So Dana, how do you see the whole pace attack for Multan Sultans in this season? Do you think they have sufficient pace? Do you think they have what it takes to be a very good bowling unit?
I think the fact that they wanted Naseem Shah that badly and couldn't get him probably bodes well for Josh Little, in the sense that might mean they have a bigger role planned for him, because they really need that fast bowler, express pace bowler in their side. I like Dan said, I've been very impressed with Josh Little too. I was at the World Cup and I think I just heard from a lot of the Irish journalists that he's going to really kick on now, and he didn't disappoint. I was a bit surprised he didn't get more game time at the SAT20. I wasn't fully across there. I'm not sure whether. I think he only played 1 game. I watched that. I mean, I think initially, he looked good there too. But I think he'll have a reasonably big role. The one little concern that I have for Multan, I wonder if others share that, is I think they have a lot of people at the moment who are generally good but out of form at the moment. Tim David, I think, has struggled in the BBL. Mohammad Rizwan, potentially, I'm interested to see how he comes along after the way it's gone with the national side. Shan Masood too, before the World Cup, had a shocker of a series against England. Even Rousseau didn't really have a great SAT20. So that's the one thing I'm concerned about. I think there's a lot of players there that are very impressive, but a lot of players who happen to be out of form at this moment, and I wonder how significant that might be.
Right. So Ali, Tareen is back. Ali, can you hear us?
Yes, for my fellow Pakistanis, I'm sorry, the load shedding. I'm sure you can understand.
Well, yes, we can. So we'll just have you walk us through the whole Multan squad again. Ali, give us your playing 11.
Yeah. Apologies. So I was mentioning that I feel Multan is a very balanced squad. So Rizwan and Shan up top, very stable openers. Both have shown in the last year that they can accelerate as well. So not just 2 anchors. And then Riley at 3, Pollard at 4, who I think is one of the best replacement picks of any team. David Miller at 5, Khustil at 6. 7, we have Anwar Ali, Ahmad Butt, 2 very good domestic all-rounders. Number 8, Josh Little, who Danyal mentioned is going to be very, very important for us this year. Number 9, Osama Mir, one of the most informed leg spinners, wrist spinners in the Pakistan season that just passed. At 10, you have Dahani, everyone's favorite. And at 11, I have Ihsanullah. So anyone who doesn't watch domestic, I can tell you, Ihsanullah is an absolutely exceptional bowler. So of all the bowlers we have at our disposal this year, I think Ihsanullah is just a cut above. He is in such good form. He's the highest wicket taker in the Pakistan Cup that just recently finished, and he is bowling with so much pace, so much control. It is, if he gets a proper run, he is going to impress everyone, leave some jaws dropped. So a very, very big hope for Sanullah this season.
Absolutely. We're all excited to see Sanullah this season as well. And Ali Khan, I'll come to you with the let's talk a little bit about the all-rounders that Multan Sultans have, and how do you see them being, played according to, let's see how the whole tournament progresses. So basically, they have Khushdil Shah, who was the all-rounder of the tournament last season. They have Arafat Minhas, who is a local boy, and he was the all-rounder of the tournament in Pakistan Junior League. So they have
and captain of the best 11 in the PGL.
Exactly. He wasn't the captain of the franchise, but he was nominated as a captain of the whole Pakistan Junior League, which was a huge thing. He was exceptional throughout, and this is the first time he's ever been picked as well. They have Karen Pollard, and they also have Anwar Ali, who we all know is someone who has played PSL for a very long time and has been very impactful. So how do you see the all-rounders being shuffled throughout the tournament?
Yeah, I think they have a lot of guys that you would theoretically consider to be all-rounders. How they operate, I think, is a different story. How dynamic they are in any given skill. For example, Anwar Ali he bowls, but is he a dynamic bowler? I don't think he is. Same with Karen Pollard. Karen Pollard cost me a game when I was in St. Lucia. Gave up 30 runs in 1 over to Darren Bravo. So I that still haunts me to the day. Ahmad Butt, I think that Ahmad Butt is a great addition. Ahmad has improved immensely playing for Balochistan in domestic cricket. So they definitely have all-rounders. Arafat Minhas is a great shout. I think they have some redundancies in the batting lineup. Guys that kind of play with the same cadence. Tim David Miller, Karen Pollard. So as dynamic as they are and as dangerous as they can be, I think it's possible that there might be some replication there. I think Khushdil Shah batting low. Khushdil usually starts kind of slow, even though he can pick it up a little bit later on. Where he fits is going to be kind of interesting to me. And then I think their bowling lineup is not as good as some of the other teams, right? When you compare it to Lahore, for example, the names are really good, right? Josh Little, Ali mentioned Sanullah is a really exciting talent. Dhani is, it's a mystery why he hasn't played more for Pakistan this year when Pakistan has had so many injuries. But if you look at the overall structure of that bowling lineup, I would be a little concerned, about making early inroads, about taking wickets in the power play. So as good as the team looks overall, I think there are certain concerns, and they're going to be relying really heavily on kind of that lower middle order batting. And then I think it was talked about a little earlier about Rizwan and Shan Masood kind of becoming a little bit better in terms of their intent. But I think the bar is really low because I think they're still instinctively very much kind of in that anchor mode in terms of kind of protecting their wicket. And with this team, they should be a little bit more expansive in their stroke play. And so I'll be interested to see what Shan does, right? Because we saw Shan in the Test matches kind of go really gung ho with his approach. Was that some kind of weird defense mechanism, or is that kind of the new version of Shan? I guess we'll see. We'll have an answer to that question in this tournament. Yeah, and then the Arafat Minhas, I'm really interested to see what he does, because I think he's someone who lower down in the middle order is really good at navigating a chase at a very young age. So he's a really good player to look out for Pakistan in the future.
I completely agree that the bowling attack, even though obviously I'm very pro most of the players and people like Samin Gul also, but it is not a very experienced bowling lineup, and I think that is something I'm concerned about. But from the batting, I just want to mention, as Dan mentioned earlier, Usman Khan. Usman Khan is a really, really good batter, and if anyone wants to talk about him more,
sure.
We'll go to Dan for that. Dan, go ahead. Please let us know how you see his inclusion here.
Yeah, I've been super impressed with him over this winter. He was one of the best batters in the T10, striking over 200 with a really high boundary percentage. And then he's gone to BPL and playing for a very, very poor team in Chattogram Challengers and come out of it with a huge amount of credit as well. So I would like to see him in some way, shape or form. I don't know how you're going to fit him into that batting group, but I think that they should make an attempt to do so. Well, on the subject of that batting group as well, it's very, very left-hander heavy, which in the PSL is not a bad idea because right arm off spin is bowled quite infrequently. Only about one in 5 spin overs are bowled by right arm off spin in the last couple of years. So the matchup wise, left-handers will tend to be better in PSL than right-handers, but obviously that does leave them susceptible to teams with matchup off spin from say their batting group. The other concern for me really with this Multan side is the death bowling. I think Josh Little really is the only proven death bowler out of the whole group. Dahani's economy at the death and boundary concession at the death has been really, really quite poor in recent years, or it's broken through. So, and Josh Little's still a young player himself. So, for me, you compare that bowling group to Lahore Qalandars, and everyone's going to compare poorly to Lahore Qalandars bowling group, but I think that's a particular concern here.
Right. So let's just go ahead and round it up. Behram, what are your thoughts about this whole squad? And obviously, let's talk a little bit about the firepower as well. You've got David Miller, Riley Russo, Tim David, Kieran Pollard. So a lot of firepower in the Multan squad.
Yeah, when I look at this Multan squad, I see a very strong core, especially with some of those players who have been playing for this franchise for a while. Now, Rizwan has led the team really well, and Shan also was leading the team perfectly fine before that. And that leadership sort of role is still there for Shan Masood, and I think he revels in it. So those two guys, along with Khushdil and Shahnawaz Dahani, I think they form a really, really strong core. And then, as you said, the firepower that's coming in the middle order for them, in the form of David Miller, Riley Russo, Tim David, Kieran Pollard. Now, I know that Tim David, I think, is not available for the entire tournament, and a few of these guys are out of form, barring maybe David Miller. But, you expect batting-friendly tracks, and we've seen all of these guys perform in the PSL in years gone by. So I think the experience with respect to the batting order is very, very important over here to mention, because I think that Multan will consistently rack up high scores. Now, with respect to the bowling, I see a lot of exciting talent. Of course, Ali Tareen spoke of Ehsanullah and Sameen Gul. I think he had a lot of success in the earlier years of the PSL and then didn't play a few seasons, and now he's back. So I'm excited to see him. And maybe this death bowling is a problem, but I do rate him as a new ball bowler. So they have that. And Usama Mir, I think, is a step up from Usman Qadir, who I believe they had in years gone by. And Usama Mir has been prolific in the domestic circuit this season, and he got a fair bit of success versus New Zealand as well in the ODIs. So I think that he is a very good signing. And Josh Little as well. I still remember that delivery that he bowled to Ben Stokes in Australia and cleaned him up, and that was just out of a dream. So I think that they've got a lot of exciting talent with the ball, but maybe not as experienced, as Ali Tareen also mentioned earlier. So that could be an Achilles heel. But overall, I see a very balanced squad. It's the most successful side from last season. Of course, they lost the final to the Lahore Qalandars, but I believe they won 9 out of their 10 league games, which was a record. So I think that Multan is very well poised to make the playoffs again. I would not be surprised if they play the final again. But there are a few chinks in their armor, particularly in that bowling attack. And I think that could potentially come to haunt them.
I also just want to mention, we haven't mentioned some of the players on the bench who hopefully will get some games. Akil Hussain, Wayne Parnell. So if there's issues with our bowling, we have experienced overseas players who can come in.
Ali, do you know if Parnell is fit? He missed the last couple of games of the South African.
I'm unsure.
And Akil Hussain too. I mean, I think his availability is a concern, but he could be a handful with both bat and ball. I've seen Akil Hussain strike the ball a mile, and he's an extremely exciting talent. And I thought he was West Indies' best player in the T20 World Cup that happened in the UAE a couple of years back. So I rate him very highly.
Right. So Multan Sultans is a pretty balanced team going forward. Yes, they do have a bit of concern when it comes to the informed players, and obviously a bit of experience as well. But let's see how they cover it up as the tournament goes on.